learned a lot about Aleister Crowley from various sources, including Freeman TV, a little bit from, what is his name? The Phoenix Enigma. I've watched every one of his videos, he's great. And just looking at the people that this guy has influenced, and we're talking about everyone from, he was MI5. That's one thing that's pretty much a solid lock guarantee. But even people who he influenced after his death, like continuously influencing the culture. I mean, the CIA basically used his playbook to do MK Ultra experiments, the sexual abuse and torture to create portals and splintered personalities in people to make super soldiers. That's all Aleister Crowley. That he did the legwork on that one. And people who don't know this, Aleister Crowley was a disgusting pedophile, child abuser, and murderer. He was Jimmy Savile before Jimmy Savile, but much darker. And in fact, Jimmy Savile is one of the people he influenced. Another person would be David Bowie, which seems probably shocking, but David Bowie is in the OTO, the Ordo Temporarialis, which is something that wasn't always as corrupt as it is now, but Aleister Crowley changed the face of that forever and remolded it in his own image. Same thing with the Golden Dawn, which is another one of these crazy secret societies. And he was also a 33rd degree Freemason, so he's had his hands and his fingers in everything. In 1885, you're looking at Albert Pike, who I think was also the founder of the KKK. That's a really detailed and intricate topic too. There's many layers to that story as to what's good and what's bad about it. But Albert Pike and Aleister Crowley shouldn't be revered by anybody, especially the Freemasons, if they want to have any kind of self-respect. I mean, these guys still carry their books in their lodges, and they're heralded as great men. And then they're trying to bring about the end of the world. So what does that tell you about the more modern, corrupted Freemasonic order? I mean, that just tells you everything you have to know. They are part of the they're part of the global elite that want to take down the earth. And the way they do that is through communism, which was created by none other than the Vatican, the Jesuits. Ever since the Counter-Reformation, which is when the Ignacio Loyola founded the Society of Jesus, which is also known as the Jesuits. This guy was a military man who got injured. I believe it was a cannon, and it took out one of his legs and half the other. And he was upset because he wouldn't be able to serve the bloody war of the whatever the religious wars were at the time that he was fighting. So he decided to self-flagellate in a monk retreat for as much as he could, and then came back to the surface with this idea of the Society of Jesus, which was basically assassins for the Vatican. So he found a way to make his evil intent for the world and his blind service to the Roman Catholic Church, which is basically the Roman Empire, solidified by creating this order. And it's just another secret society, but they're military. I mean, they're like the CIA, but even more dreadful. They have spies that spy on their spies. That's like the first time that concept was ever put to action. Now, obviously, that's how the CIA works. That's how MI5, MI6, the Mossad, which, by the way, they're all pretty much modeled after each other. The OSS, all these things were inspired by Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley, meaning like the programs that they ran, and the actual structure and outline from the Jesuits themselves. Some other people of interest who might be shocking to find out. Okay, so Winston Churchill. You know, everybody's favorite mixed bag of goods and evils. His little sign like this. That was something that Aleister Crowley personally directed him to do because of Crowley's research into dark secret societies and ancient dark magic. He equated it to many things, but he settled on it being the symbol for Typhon, which is an Egyptian evil devil god of the sea. And because of Winston Churchill, prior to being, the big boss man over there, he was, it's not the same as Vice Admiral, but he was like the Royal Admiral of the Sea or whatever. He was in charge of the fleet when the Lusitania, he pulled the detail off the Lusitania so that it would be attacked and sunk. Killing, I think it was 1,200 people at the time. Yeah, this guy is a scumbag, and he was taking his, getting his advice from Aleister Crowley, who was a rapist, a murderer, and went around the world and a lot of places in the United States conducting these ritual dark magic sex acts, probably with children, probably with babies, and said to have, he claims to have been opening portals there. What's interesting about that is in 1947, when he passed away, like dropped dead, right, supposedly, that's when we first saw people, I think it was somewhere in maybe Mount Rainier or something, somewhere out in Washington, right? There was a pilot who seemed to have seen a unidentified flying object for the first time, and then shortly after that, the whole Roswell thing with the alien crash landing, according to everybody. So, did Crowley actually open a portal? Did he not close it because he just didn't feel like it because he's trying to destroy the earth and kill all the good people? Like, these people hate the middle class. Again, it's because the church hates the middle class. The Roman Catholic Church, each pope, ever since 1783, I think it was, when we became a nation, officially, none of them have ever acknowledged our Constitution. They've never acknowledged our government as being valid government, and they want to wreak havoc on our society, and they decided to do so in a really disgusting, horrible way. And so they wanted to erode us from the inside, and that's what they've been doing. I mean, the one thing that can connect all these people together would be, like, who's the centralized power that's telling them what to do? Who's the command center for all these different organizations to be working together? That's what everybody says when they say, oh, this is just a conspiracy. These people would all have to be working together in order for this to happen. It's the Vatican. It's the church. Ever since Josephus, the traitor Josephus, who didn't want to be killed by Vespasio, so he changed his tune and said, "Oh, you've been prophesied to become the leader of this nation, blah, blah, blah." And he was a Jew. And he was the first one who was super willing to be a Roman pawn at that point. Blended together because they have been working together for the longest time. And the church and the Jesuits, they love having the Jews out front to take all the abuse and take all the blame for what they're doing. I mean, it's great for them because it keeps their anonymity, So everybody's like, "Oh, it's a Zionist, so it's the Jews." I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, in a sense, maybe by name, but who are they getting their marching orders from? Who's still in control? And then if you say to yourself, well, what if the Roman Empire never ended? What if the Roman Empire didn't end? Did they just rebrand themselves as the Roman Catholic Church? Is that what happened? Because that would make sense. Because a religion can go to many nations, and all these missions, you can think of as mercenaries. They convert the brown people, basically. They convert all these third world countries, and they place all these missions there, and they force a religion upon them, and then they beat it into them as best as they can, and then there you have it. Then all of a sudden these people are religious zealot crazy nutbags too. Monarchies grew out of religion because they needed to have somebody substantiate their divine right to rule. They needed to have somebody validate their royal bloodline, so they were independent. They were dependent on the church to give them validation. So all these monarchies cropped up all throughout Europe, and even the Tsarist Russia was part of that. They were Christian / Catholic, and after a while, like after the 1500s, when there was a breaking from the church. They called it the Reformationist movement. That's when the Ignacio Loyola got a hair up his ass to create the Jesuits, because he was bound and determined to reclaim in what they called the counter-Reformationist movement. He was going to reclaim souls, basically. He was going to kill all those who betrayed the church by, the Protestants, the Lutheran, the Martin Luther banging his thing, all of that was in defiance to the church, but also in defiance, if you think about it, as a Roman Empire, to the Roman emperor's rule, right? And they have no tolerance for that. So not just are they going to drag us back and put us back in our cages. No, they're going to murder our... This is actually in the... Let's see if I can find it. I'll look for it some other time, but... It sounds just like a crazy, Freemasonic oath, but it's talking about gutting out the innards of our women. Reformationists are our founding fathers, so they look at the United States, all of us, as Reformationists, and we're all the enemy. Pulling out the guts of our women and smashing our infants' heads on rocks, and you can't negotiate with somebody whose sole purpose is your demise. Like there's no negotiating. There's no coming to a middle ground with somebody whose only purpose in existence is to kill you. And when you start thinking about that, and you start thinking about, okay, well, this Roman Empire, did they become Christian or Catholic, or did they just do it to appease and draw people in, kind of in a sneaky way? Well, then what was their religion before that? Was it Mithraean? Was it darker? Was it... Did they worship Baal? And then you start, so maybe 5,000 years ago, the Canaanites and the Baal worship didn't end. And it didn't, obviously. I think everybody knows that by now. Moloch, all that stuff. That's all tied into the cult of Baal. AL, and they are all about child sacrifice. Crowley reminded them that they should also be raping and torturing them first. And some people say, oh, that's for the adrenochrome. Yeah, sure. They get high off that and all that stuff, and they think that they live longer, and maybe they do. But it's also because of their hatred for the creator's creation. Even though I guess they don't think that they're part of it, or they reject it with everything that they've got. So anything that is innocent and beautiful and wonderful, they want to destroy, but they also want to defile it. And they have absolutely no conscience about that. They will harm the most beautiful thing, including your children. And that's what you're seeing with the Epstein thing. I mean, this was given a shot in the arm through Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley pops up in the strangest places, like Beatles covers, like I said, with David Bowie. Barbara Bush could be the daughter of Aleister Crowley because her mother, I think her last name is Price, was at a sexual, a ritual sex magic ceremony that Crowley was conducting, and she was one of the people that offered herself to him. And 9.5 months or so later, or whatever it was, out popped Barbara Bush. And if you look at the pictures side by side, you might think that there's pretty damn good resemblance. But to me, I always think that old people, when you get to a certain age, everybody looks similar because everybody fades out in the same way. Maybe not everybody, but there's certain characteristics that kind of transcend. And it's hard to tell when you're in an advanced age whether or not you look like somebody when they were younger. It's hard to put that together. It's a lot easier to say, like, oh, a bald person looks like a bald person, because, duh, they do have a very similar characteristic. Where was I at now? So, the Jesuits are going to be found if you keep looking for it, and if you look in the right places and you keep an open mind, you'll start to realize that this deep state, this ominous deep state, this Illuminati, which I believe actually was started with good intent. I mean, Thomas Jefferson actually acted pretty openly about his approval of Adam Weishaupt. Branch of the Illuminati was corrupted, but I do believe that it may have started off actually as something good. And people say, oh, the Freemasons were the good. No, I think that the Freemasonic order was sabotaged first, and I think the Illuminati was sabotaged after. And I think at the beginning of the Illuminati, they were actually trying to bring people back to self-determination and the Christian way. And if you look at what Thomas Jefferson actually said about it, and I'll try to post it at the end of this, it's a decent read, and it sounds like all the things that you would like to hear. And if it's true, then yeah, we don't know what what the true intent is, because we've been told a lie about the Illuminati's beginning. Now, when you see people, doing this and all this other crap with the triangle, I can't do it because I'm holding the camera, but the triangle thing with the pop stars and stuff, that's not Illuminati, and that's not Freemasonic. It is maybe more Freemasonic than it is Illuminati. Illuminati doesn't have that symbol. That's not a symbol, a hand gesture of the Illuminati. What that is it's an old black magic hand gesture that basically says they're putting something into you, or they're drawing something out, depending on how the hand gesture is posed. And it's basically a way of like shooting at a target. Like they're putting their whatever out at you, and it's not not a benevolent way. It's in a malicious way. Like they're taking something, they're projecting that energy of negativity at you, and that's what that symbolism means. It's black magic. It's more Kabbalah stuff than it is anything else. Jimmy Page, by the way, purchased Aleister Crowley's old home, and it's a pit of evil, basically, because of all the magic he was conducting in there, or should I say just awful torture of human beings. Because how can you say, oh, that must be true because of magic, blah blah blah, there's something there. You do enough bad stuff in a spot, and the energy is gonna sit there, and it's gonna be stuck there. That just could be the ether, not knowing where. It's a wound in the ether. Basically, doesn't necessarily mean that he, I think he had grand delusions. That's all I'm trying to say. So, self-aggrandizing, self-promoting, completely delusional, obsessed with sodomy, love to eat shit. This is a real thing, okay? To get as low as you possibly can is one of the things about being a servant to the devil and getting the most redemptive power of evil given back to you for your efforts, I guess. This guy thinks that he talked to channeled through another person who was writing it out. See, this is what I've seen people do this kind of nonsense before at like trade shows and stuff where they pretend like they're going into a trance, and it always seems like bullshit to me. Like, it's new age dumb shit, right? And they're always, oh, well, I see this and that and this and the other thing and blah blah, and they're always, it's like hocus pocus crystal ball crap, right? So when somebody who was sitting in a room by himself, I mean not by himself, but one other person and maybe no witnesses, right? And says that this entity who looks a lot like a gray contacted him and was speaking to him and telling him about the way. And this guy's named Lam. He gave the name Lam because it has something to do with Egyptian lore. And that was the guy who supposedly told Aleister Crowley that do as thou wilt, for nothing is blah blah blah. I don't. The whole entire statement is longer, but that's what you see on Jay-Z in one of his videos. Do as thou wilt on his shirt. It's a way of saying whatever you want to do goes, and that's your way of getting yourself justified for harming children and babies. That's really where the aim of that is going, and saying, well, bestiality is okay. Oh yeah, Jack Parsons. Speaking of bestiality, Jack Parsons, co-founder of NASA. NASA was inspired by Aleister Crowley. Okay, Jack Parsons was a OTO member. The Order Temporalis, like I said, before Crowley was a different place than after Crowley. The Knights Templar name gets dragged through the mud, and it has bad publicity ever since. Was it King Philip or whatever lied about them pissing on crosses and doing all kinds of and worshiping Baphomet or Mahomet, which basically what he's trying to say. He was trying to say that they were Muslim sympathizers, which is nothing wrong with Muslim sympathy. The fucking books are practically the same. You know, I mean, he was not wanting to. The Templar came back a little bit. What do they call it? A little enlightened for having realized that they didn't have enemies. You know, as the church had made them think that they had. And because they had amassed wealth and respect with the locals, the church saw them as a threat to their ultimate, complete, and total power. So they ended up demonizing them and trying to kill each one of them, just like they did with the Cathars, because the Cathars weren't, you know, subservient to the church. See, all the ways the church have acted sounds like an empire to me. Sounds like a Roman Empire to me. So I say Roman Empire because it's of its location in the world, but it's empirical religiosity. You know, it's not something that just your local, you know, Jehovah's Witness would want to take over the world and make you, like, you know, do as he says, otherwise there'll be delicious hell to pay. That's not really the standard practice of what a Christian would consider to be the right thing to do. And ancient Christians didn't even have a localized concept of authority. Like they lived in gnosis. They lived in knowing that they had a direct line to God, and that the self-determination and the personal experience was what's important. Like, your experiences through life are what define you, and you're supposed to go on your path of experiences. You're not supposed to read a book or be dictated a book and accept it as the truth. You're supposed to scrutinize everything that's, you know, worth scrutinizing until you get your own discernment and make your own decisions on things. So, in a sense, science, because if everything is a settled fact, then science is also a fake. You know, science is also a religion, which it is. It's actually Kabbalah most of the time. If you're looking at physics and stuff like that, it's completely tied into the Kabbalah. Another interesting side note that the crazy-haired genius, quote-unquote, Einstein, he was a genocidal madman. As early as 1929, he's quoted as having made statements about how he wanted to wipe the Germanic people off the face of the planet. So 1933 is when Hitler came into power. So don't blame Hitler for his desire to kill Germans. This is just a sick, mad motherfucker who just had this belief and this desire since long before. He was a patent clerk stealing people's patents. That's the facts, man. He wasn't just genius. He was looking at other people's ideas because he was a patent clerk, and he was formulating. He basically took a bunch of things that already existed and tried to push them together however way they would fit, like puzzle pieces, until every once in a while he got lucky. It's not. Yeah, man. If you want to look at a genius, look at Nikola Tesla, who worked off of his mental blueprint and never even wrote anything down. And obviously that would infuriate the people that I was working with, because they needed a blueprint to follow, because he got a bunch of people to try to show them how to do things. So he had his shortcomings with that, but he was a photogenic genius. Like, he had a photographic memory, he had everything. He could envision and see things clear as day and know how to do it. And that's a genius. That's not some guy who's sitting in a patent office, stealing people's ideas all day and then pawning them off as his, as he's, denying the patents on the people that actually had the ideas. So, whatever. I'm gonna... I'm seriously considering creating a website so that I can post articles that I write in addition to making videos, because my medium is type, is writing. I can express myself better, it's more fluid, I have the time I need to collect my thoughts and organize them properly, and the person in front of the video camera and the person behind the pen, although they are the same people, one of them seems a whole lot more educated than the other, a whole lot more profound and of value, and that's the person that's behind the pen. It's just always been my medium. I've been writing since I was 14. Video is something new to me. I don't have the gift of conversation. I'm a minimalist when it comes to conversation. I don't talk unless there's something important to say, and if I've said it once, just like the Psycho Killer song by the Talking Heads, say something once, why say it again? I don't get hooked on words that are, pop culture words, stupid words that people repeat, fake words that people mismash together. That's just not my thing. I never consider myself to be a part of the society. I'm not looking for anybody's approval. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I live my life not in accordance to how I want other people to perceive me. I don't make videos to be liked. I make videos to summarize and give myself a marker from all the research that I've done, so I have something to look back at that's summarized.